Grundtvig's History of the World and Kierkegaard's book about the deeds of love. And that made him decide that he should make a special school which Grundtvig had suggested to give these teachings to the youth. He started in a farmhouse. They lived together in the roof and they were teaching at the bottom. So many came to his school that in 1861 he got a bigger school. And here we see him with his new pupils. And he said to them, the idea of this school is that the real battle is not between landowners and farmers, not between Danes and Germans. The real battle is between light and darkness, as Grundtvig have said, between good and evil. And we are going to teach at this school how you can win that battle in your own heart. But the national feelings in Germany led to a new war about the possession of the southern part of Denmark. Denmark lost the war and lost the southern part of Jutland. But in a curious way, this defeat became the start of a great development. Hundreds of schools like cults were built all over the country, and young teachers and students began to teach at these schools, and a whole generation, especially of young farmers, attended them. Also schools for girls were made. Soon, local councils decided to make projects on this basis. They were all responsible. They all had one vote whether they had 1 cow or 10 cows. And they were all economically responsible. And in this way they began to build dairies. Here we see the first cooperative dairy. That was in 1882. In the next 20 years, 800 cooperative dairies were built all over the country, as well as other cooperative factories. This resulted in a big growth in Danish agricultural production, and the surplus helped finance industry. So Denmark began to become industrialized. Here we see a paper factory and a shipyard. But with industry, also unemployment became something that was a difficulty. There was no aid for those who were unemployed, only aid for the poor. Here we see them collected to receive this. And that when you received aid for the poor, you lost your civil rights. So here we see a man saying, my wife has collected 2 breads, and for that I have lost my civil rights. At the parliament, there was a move that the upper house should be you should have a higher income to be elected. Grundtvig reacted strongly. He was now an old man, but he said, because a man has a lot of money doesn't make him a better man than the man who has less money. We should all be equal. He said, this is a wrong thing. Rather, we should make a law that gave help to the poor and the unemployed and the old. In 1915, the Danish constitution was changed to give women rights of election. The prime minister who had pioneered that, Claus Berntsen, was actually one of the pupils of Kolds school. At that time, the Danish labor movement had also been developing a political party, a social democratic party, to help better the situation for the workers. There were meetings around the country to agitate for an 8-hour day and many other things which the workers hoped could develop. The Social Democratic Party elected a worker as chairman, Thorvald Stauning. We see him here with the leaders of the party. In 1912, a young lawyer became responsible for the poor in Frederiksberg region. He reacted at the old law that still existed with aid for the poor. And he came with the suggestion we must make a new law which give rights instead of support. But he also challenged the Social Democratic Party that they should build on the moral standards from the higher religions and not on the intellectual ideas which were going around the country in the intellectual materialism. In 1918, when the World War ended, at the peace with Germany, French had suggested that there should be a referendum in the southern part of Denmark where there still were many Danes, so that those who voted for Denmark could come back to Denmark. About half of the population voted to come back, and here we see the King Christian X riding on a white horse into the old land that now had come back. Many revolutionary ideas were turning around in Europe, mainly in Russia and Germany, but it also came to moves in Denmark, and the police had to stop quite violent moves. Stauning said, the Danish Social Democratic Party is building on an evolution, not on a revolution. We believe that we can change society by reforms, but big reforms must be carried than more than a little majority. That is the program we are following in the Social Democratic Party. And he proved that it worked. He had become Minister of Social Affairs in a government, and by free negotiations between the trade union leaders and industrial and employers, it was agreed to make an 8-hour working day the big wish of the workers. But the basic aid was still a degrading aid. Steinke was now Minister of Social Affairs in the government, and he raised again the issue of giving rights. At that time in the 30s, the international financial crisis also reached Denmark, and the unemployment raised colossally. And still, it was a degrading aid the workers had to receive. Here we see them waiting. Workers demonstrated in front of Parliament asking for work. Farmers were in difficulties also because of the economic crisis, and they went to the royal palace and asked for aid. In that situation, secretly, the leaders of the Liberal and another center party went to the Prime Minister, which still was Thorvald Stauning, and together they, after a long night's negotiation, made an agreement. And it was named after the street where the Prime Minister lived, Kanslergade, in the famous agreement where the farmers got aid and a new law about social aid was made. That gave new dignity to workers' home, as we see here. Steinke, now an older man, was asked by the Copenhagen students to tell about this. And they greeted him with congratulating for the social agreement. He said, a social agreement is necessary, but it is not the answer. Work is the answer to unemployment. In 1935, around this time, an international movement, the Oxford Group,